Welcome to Hopium Slayer, Episode 1, The Blame Game. Now, before we blame anyone, we need to see what the real trap is. They're not hiding anymore. They're selling the beast system out in the open. The hierarchy is being externalized. Their religion, their rules, their rituals are now being dressed up as patriotism and awakening. Critical thinkers through the conspiracy movement are being used as vehicles, taking the occult mystery religions, the Luciferian doctrines, and making them mainstream. They're not using lies to do this, but using the truth. They leak just enough to bait you in, to win your heart, to make you fight for the chains they're building with your money. Just because they call out the Jays, the Vatican, the Synagogue of Bagels, the Jesuits, whoever, it does not mean that you're doing so to help you. Free energy, techno-utopia, or enslavement. Where are they ushering you in? Now, they're walking us into the slaughterhouse with our hearts wide open and our eyes wide shut, just like the movie. Remember Judas? He exposed evil. He broke bread with us. He sat down at the table up until the very last second when it mattered most. And he sold us all out with a kiss. Today's Judases expose evil. They use it to gain our trust. This way, they do not need to pierce our armor of God, but we take it off willingly for them. Welcome to the Blame Bee. Welcome to Hopium Slayer. I'm Sir Escanor. Let's have some fun. All right, let's get this show on the road. So I've decided the format. I'll take a couple of minutes in the beginning to go over some interesting posts or maybe a poor soul that I destroyed in the last couple of days. And I have a good one here, and it kind of will feed into episode 2, which will be about saving the children. So let's see. This lady, Julie Donuts, which is a hardcore MAGA sycophant lunatic. I made a good example out of her this week. And just to keep things honest and real, right? People that are just, politically brain dead zombies that worship some politician or, movie star or any loser on the world stage. These are not the type of people that I go after to expose. I mean, they're just deceived, right? Don't get me wrong. They do push along the Luciferian agenda, and that deserves to be exposed, but they're not at least doing it knowingly. But we'll have a little fun with this one. So to give some background, she posted this, which went almost viral, got like 2,500 reposts. To make a long story short, I don't want to play this because it's completely stupid, but there's this seemingly biker wannabe loser type that doesn't say a single word, okay? And in the background, there's an AI woman's voice that is talking about adrenochrome, who is saying absolutely nothing that none of us don't already know. And the caption to this tweet is, "This is what got me digging years ago. Some are not ready for this conversation. Praise God, it's ending soon, adrenochrome." There's no factual evidence that any of this is ending. And to the contrary, I could argue that through Peter Thiel's ambrosia, which synthesizes adrenochrome, is directly tied to J.D. Vance and Trump. So I could argue the complete opposite with actual facts. Well, these people, this episode is the blame game. And this will make you understand of how they use truth to cover a bigger deception. Now, let's get into what I responded to her, right? So she posted this and I wrote, "How the F has learning about adrenochrome improved your life? When you're down these deep down rabbit holes, do you ever care to consider why they ignite trauma in the researcher? Because in the above video, it says that adrenochrome is used through adrenalized, traumatized children's blood. But do you ever consider why going down the rabbit hole ignites the same mechanisms that erode the defense against mind control? They're using exposures of evil to inhibit the same reactions inside of us that they want in the very children that they are synthesizing the adrenochrome from. And nobody ever puts this together. Why, when you go down the rabbit hole, why do you end up in a state of despair, of trauma? You feel all alone. It's the perfect setup to throw in a false savior and have you cling to their nuts. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm asking her this question genuinely, and it's so way above her head that her response is, a retard says what? Which is like the dumbest thing ever. To which I responded, oh, this is really funny. This is why, responses is kind of what made me over the years on X. I'm like 32 accounts in, tens of thousands on each. It's been a while. I've wasted a lot of people, and showing you how I expose people is what I want to do. But before we get into all that, there's a lot of groundwork, a lot of background, because I need to give you my worldview and how I see things in order for you to see them the same way and expose them. So I'm going to try to do the best I can with that. So anyways, I told her, this is you minus the hot and broad, which is a joke that I wrote just prior. It was almost meant to be. If I were a real piece of shit, I'd walk up to a hot MAGA broad, snatch her drink, spike it with GHB as she watches, hand it back to her, and then whisper, trust the plan. Because these people are so brain dead that you could take a dump and a piss on their kid's head and tell them that Donald has christened them, and they'll never wash their damn kids again. That's how brainwashed these people are. So after I wrecked her, she actually not only blocked me, but she actually hid the post because it was so funny. The comments are just amazing. So enough about this one. The next one, oh, here's that, right? The comments are hilarious. The next part, before we get into the main point of this thread, I did another interesting post here, and it kind of falls into the same line, right? Don't worry, guys. I'm convinced. The plan is perfect. They are definitely not using the Epstein list to demoralize and desensitize you, and definitely not exploiting the fact that trauma, obsession, despair, and exhaustion erode the same psychological defenses that mind control needs to thrive, as I just mentioned. It's all part of a grand master stroke, guys. First, we just need to get Neuralinked into Palantir hive mind, where every thought is tracked, scored, and monetized, and then, and only then, they'll finally release the Epstein list to us, right after your third social credit downgrade and your fifth booster inhaler hit, which I don't know if you know anything about that, but Canada's just in the second round of testing for inhalable vape shots of mRNA. Good times, guys. And what a victory it'll be. Maybe they'll even let you download the names directly into your damn brain as an NFT. And the best part of this is that even if this happens and these fools, we get to this, they'll basically be downloading the same list that all of us have had for the last 10 years. Bondi and all these losers, what did they do? They released the same list that all of us have had for like 10 years, but redacted. So, hate me later, guys, because this is you right here. A giant D, a retarded D that is looking to get banged. That's what all of you look like. And I just want to clarify that from the bat. So now, we're going to get into the whole blame game topic. I'm going to go over a a thread that I've made regarding this topic, and I'm going to go over some background information. At the end, I'm going to tell you, what the hell do you need to know from all of this? Because I don't want to overload you guys with information. My thought process right now is I want to go over the topic of how they use accusations, rebuking, and blaming as a way as a defense mechanism, actually, to shelter the deception rather than to expose it, which is completely contrary to what you might think by viewing this, optically or even researching it. It's a little bit complicated. There's a lot of things we need to go over. So what I'm going to try to do is over the next few episodes, the next one will be Save the Children, right? And I'm going to try to show you guys how some of the sickest people on the planet are hiding under the guise of saving the children to commit the very atrocities that we're cheering them on for stopping. And it's a huge mindfuck, and it's actually quite disgusting. So when I see people cheering for all these Save the Children, saved under the dumbs, the bunkers with zero evidence, meanwhile, the same people that are creating these documentaries are having pizza parties and all these disgusting things, it drives something inside me, and I feel I'm compelled to expose it. But anyways, we'll get into that in episode 2. And then episode 3, what I'm planning, just to give you a little heads up, I'm planning likely to go into a little Bible understanding. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to be able to shatter things that many of you are certain of. Destroying your worldviews, proving them wrong, showing you how our enemies operate to deceive us. These are all the main focuses of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Love me for it, hate me for it, believe it or not, this is all up to you. But if you're listening to this, it's because you've likely been following me for a long time, and you know that I don't F around. And it's just the damn truth. I've exposed everybody pretty much there's to expose. Probably more than all of your top 5 truthers all time combined. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm literally being literal. So enough bullshit about me. I don't like talking about me, but let's get into it. So, the blame game. What a topic. China, the Jays, Khazars, Russia, how the beast system weaponizes your hatred to build its throne. So, let me guess, it's the Jays. Or is it China? Nah, it's the fake Jays. The Khazarians, the Synagogue of Bagels, maybe the Communist Party under Mao, maybe the WF, Klaus, the Rothschilds. Is it Russia? Nah, it can't be Russia. Putin's a white hat, right? Or maybe it's just everyone who doesn't think exactly as you do. Welcome to the endless blame game, where truth seekers become attack dogs playing distraction while the B system laughs behind the curtain. Now, this is a really funny meme, by the way. The psyop dialectic. Pick your enemy, any enemy, as long as we're pointing at each other. They gave us a couple of years ago, for most of the part of the century, I'll say left versus right. Then it's Trump versus the deep state. Now it's the awakened red pill version of all this, which is it's the Jays. Or is it the fake Jays? Is it the Jesuits playing everybody? Nah, it's China. Maybe it's all of them. What about the good Jews? Is there any? Or is it just the Zionists? Russia, they're good now. As I said, isn't Putin a white hat? You see, this whole shitstorm is to inhibit this between us. We're all pointing the finger at different factions, but what's worse is that we are defending our accusations by rebuking fellow truthers who see things differently. We are, in fact, dividing ourselves. And all of our attacks are getting funneled and dispersed into a controllable asset that they can use to further their overreaching agenda. That's what's actually going on in the background. Well, I'm arguing it's the Jays and you're telling me, nah, it's the Jesuits. Well, we're arguing. Well, our power is not combined and we're not using it to expose the greater evil. In fact, it's me and you going at it right now, and both the Jays and the Jesuits are laughing at both of us. And that's what's going on a world scale. We're in a ritual blame loop. Every new villain is just another psyop to keep your head spinning. Your alliance is shifting, and your target anywhere but the system itself. And guess what? None of this is by accident. The Khazarian cope and the Russia seed. This is an interesting part, and I want people to consider a lot of this. So let's talk about one of the biggest misdirections in the awakened community. The obsessions with the Khazarians. Fake Jays, crypto Jays, not the real Jays. Is it the real Jays? Is there real Jays? These are all questions that we all have different answers to. So, you need to notice something in particular, which is very interesting. Good Jays, Khazarians, Ashkenazi, whatever. Jays don't make distinctions amongst themselves. They don't call out the Khazarians. They don't correct anyone saying, hey, it's not the good Jays, it's the Khazarians. You'll never hear a Jay ever say those words. Christians and truthers alone use those words, and there's a reason for that. Jays don't see a difference between Khazarians, between the Orthodox, between Ashkenazi. They are all Chosenites under the guise. They don't separate themselves. We separate them and think they're playing off against each other. A really good way to understand this concept is the right-wing Jays versus the left-wing Jays, right? So the right-wing neocon type Jays will bomb the living shit out of a country. War-torn, traumatized, destroy it. Turn the people there into the very animals they bombed them in the first place for being. That's what they do. And then what happens? The liberalish, left-leaning Jays will set up the NGOs and, they have they love humanity, right? They're philanthropists. So they'll start taking all these people that have been battered, destroyed, hurt, abused, traumatized, destroyed, raped, pillaged, and they'll start funneling them to the West. Not to the West into Israel, not into the West into their Arab neighbors, but into the West, into Europe, and into the Americas. So they're taking these people that unfortunately are very hard to reintroduce into society, and they're throwing them en masse into our communities. And what do you think happens when you take people that come from war-torn countries and you throw them into civility, into civilization? Havoc and chaos ensues. And when that happens, the policies that come out by the same good Jays that are in our offices, who do those policies affect? Do they affect the migrants? Do they affect the Jays that brought them here? Do they affect the Jays that bombed them? Hell no. It affects me and you. So together, the left, the right Jays are part of a greater control mechanism that uses both attacks and healing as a mechanism to destroy, subvert Western culture. Now, why do I say this? Well, it's very interesting because if you look at the very first accounts of the whole Russia psyop that the Khazarians were extradited or expulsed from Russia. The very first accounts that talk about this, if you go back into history and look at it yourself, I'm not going to show it to you, just go look at the authors of the very first accounts. It was all real Jays, good Jays, journalist Jays that created the whole story about the expulsion of the Khazarians from Russia. Why do you believe a story coming from the same mechanism that doesn't see itself differently from the Khazarians in the first place? Do you understand what's going on here? The whole story is a lie. They're taking down the West doing this. They're fighting degeneracy supposedly abroad by bombing these people and then incubating that degeneracy and throwing them into our backyards. That's exactly what's going on. So I just summed this whole part up myself. Now, the Judas play. I spoke a bit about Judas in the intro. Some of the loudest voices, naming names, calling out the jade, are not our allies. They're mimicking the righteous's path to gain your trust. As I said, Judas didn't just betray. He exposed. He pointed fingers. He sat at the tables. He played his part immaculately up until the only time it really mattered. And that's when he showed his true colors. To be betrayed, one must first trust. Are you going to trust somebody who speaks in your language, who has your same worldview, who thinks it's the same people oppressing us? Or are you going to believe somebody who is on their side? Think about it. These are the mechanisms they use to control us from within, and we control ourselves in the process. What happens is they create competing factions within one another. So while I'm telling you, for example, it's the Jays, your heart is set that it's the Jesuits. So me and you are arguing, nah, it's them. You're saying, no, it's them. Meanwhile, the puppeteers are laughing at both of us. I'm repeating this part because it's the main topic of how they use this as a tool to control and subvert us. They're using our righteous anger and our willingness to step forward and expose against us. That's what they're doing. So, how do you spot the fakes? I'm going to go over a few tools or, indicators that I use. Watch who they shield, obviously, right? What does any specific group or person refuse outright to talk about? Indicator number one. Number two, selective truths. If they call out the state of Israel, but don't talk about the synagogue of bagels that is pervasive throughout the whole of Judaism, they are gatekeeping the truth. Again, not to be trusted doesn't necessarily mean they're compromised, but it definitely means you can't you can't take their opinions factually. They are deceived. No real consequences. I'm the master of this one. I've gotten zapped over 30 times on X or Twitter alone, even under Musk, by the way. So, the more things change, the more things stay exactly the same. These people use the same words you do, yet are not getting zapped, have no consequences. There's a very good chance that they're part of the club. They fake infighting. They always do this. Right now, it's happening right now on Twitter live. I don't know if you guys know Gary, the numbers guy, the fat Miss Cleo-like LARPing J Kabbalist who tortures animals. A fat sack of disgusting garbage. This guy hangs around with Myron Gaines, another beta male loser who is, convincing sackless men to take classes and pay him thousands of dollars to teach them how to grow some balls. This is insanity for me. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself now. So Max Payne, Gary the Numbers guy, he's in a fake feud with one of his very good friends. They were friends up until a couple weeks ago. What's that asshole's name? Zerka. I've ripped that guy too. He's double vaccinated, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that. So anytime he talks tough and says, be a man, this and that, tell him he's double jabbed and to sit the F back down. So these guys have been friends. They've done Kabbalistic practices together. I'm sure they've done horrible things with kids as well. But now all of a sudden, they ain't friends. They're going after each other. Just go search this guy, Max Prime on X and Zerka on X. Just go look at their infighting right now. They are fighting, but at the same time, you'll notice that they are both validating the other at the same time by proving what the other guy said about the other has been real in the past. So although they are going at each other's necks, what they're truly doing is they're building clout and taking each member's team and asserting to them individually that they made the right choice by picking either one of them when both of them are human garbage. And by the way, take these guys, find Zerka, find Max Prime, get their X handles, and then go on my X profile at Escanor Reloaded on X and copy paste their handle into the search of my page. Just do that and enjoy the show. I gave them a ripping like nobody's ever done. And once you see all this with your own eyes and read it, it will all start to make more sense how they all use each other. The coping, the exposing, the rebuking, the helping, the healing, the comforting. It's all guys to push forth an agenda of lies. Remember, look, this is what they do, guys. Lie, cry, steal, cheat, and you know what? This isn't specific to the Jays. It's specific to the system and everybody part of it that's controlled or paid within it. Truth is not a shield. It's a weapon. It must not be used to protect your narrative. It should be used like a dagger to pierce deceptions right in the heart and bust them wide open. Doing this will allow truth to, what's the word I'm looking for? Doing this will allow truth to cultivate. If you're using truth as a weapon, if you're using truth specifically to defend your own side and not attack deception, you are part of the psyop. Both China and Israel are tools of the same beast. They both hate their people. They both kill their own because to the ones truly in power, you, your family, even their own people are nothing but cattle, fuel for the ritual. So we need to stop blaming our neighbor or trying to, have them specifically only cater to exposing the same lies we do. That's not how it works. We need to go after the whole. And moving forward. So I'm saying, Trump miraculously, this is why, I lose a lot of hope. It's 2025 and I feel like I took a time machine back to 2016 because now all of a sudden it's back to China. Like we've literally went back to its communism and its China. 10 years later, we've all been telling you that communism, China, Mao, they're all Judaic ideas. Mao came to power. Everybody around him was a J, a powerful J. I'll show you that in a little bit. But what's going on with the America-China narrative now is while I'm you know, there's an AI arms race going on. Kind of like when back in the day, there was the race to the moon, which was complete bullshit. Right? Never happened. It's all a lie. But what did happen? America and Russia, in order to win, in order to get ahead, to be the first in this giant lie, had to pull strings, push money, legislation, push technology that isn't exactly necessarily legal and in ways that aren't necessarily legal in the effort to get there first. This is what's going on today. Everybody in America doesn't want China's AI Palantir-like infrastructure running our lives. Nobody wants that. But nobody in China wants the American Palantir version either. So both communities, both countries, peoples are willing to bend over, are willing to have their rights trampled on, are willing to allow the government to do things that they wouldn't allow under regular circumstances, all because there's an arms race of AI and we cannot allow the opponent to get there first. Because if they get there first, we're screwed. Here's the reality check, guys. The technology already exists. It's existed for a long time. And they're using your fear of thinking that China's AI will take over as a mechanism for you to accept Project Stargate, to accept Doge going into the government, saving us money by firing all these loser bureaucrats. But what is going on in the process? They are replacing these demons with smart contracts, with AI, with biometric compatible data, with transactional data. And they are going to, instead of having some asshole sign a paper of why you're not such a good citizen, this is all going to be it's going to be automated. They're going to know before you even thought about breaking the law, and your punishment will already be waiting for you before you committed the crime. The reason they're allowed to do this is because you're allowing them to, based on the fear that you don't want China to get there first. Same shit's going on in China, same thing's going on everywhere. So this is the macro level understanding of why the AI arms race, which feeds into the blame game, which feeds into the Jays, which feeds into the synagogue of bagels, which feeds into Russia, which feeds into America versus China, CCP, Mao, the whole 9 yards. It all feeds into the same tools and psyops they are using. They are using truth, rebuking, and blame to keep us at each other's necks and to further along their agendas with our endorsement. So, we're caught in the middle like a bunch of Stone Age monkeys, hoping that the leash will be a Chinese one or an American one. I say no to all of that. Rebuke it all. It makes me all sick. People think that there's a, that Mao and Donald have some master plan of how they're going to save us at the very last second. This is all highly spectacular thinking. So, what's the point of everything that we just went over? And actually, let's go into before I save a little outro. I want to tell you a little bit about Mao, just to show you another. Oh, this is a nice little picture. Oh, the big, beautiful lie. What a funny. Remember when the liberals, when the Democrats, the evil pedo Satanist Democrats came out with Build Back Better. Remember how everybody lost their minds? How it was 666, Build Back Better. Now we're 5 years later, and Trump's coming out with the big, beautiful bill. It's the exact same thing that everybody was attacking a couple of years ago, but has been rebranded under MAGA with a fresh and shiny red paint job. And it's all acceptable now. This is what I mean where, I try to be hopeful with progress, but everybody's literally falling for the exact same psyops that they were laughing at the brain dead liberals for falling into. You are falling for the same traps today as they did years ago. Maybe you're even dumber for that. And you're researched. You're supposed to be a truther on top of it, and you're falling for the same crap. Anyways, by the way, decentralized party, this guy right here, he's a good dude. Go follow him on Substack right now. He's a real one. So, what does all this mean, guys? It means that I, Escanor, don't give a shit about the devil's preferred pronouns. And anyone causing friction over that garbage is low IQ and is not a truther. I say, expose it all. Leave no stone unturned. Don't shelter one evil just because you're clever enough to have found the ultimate evil. I assure you, it's all part of a whole. Every hand must be shown, every puppet, every parasite, every faction, even the ones pretending to be your ally. Maybe those ones above all. Because here's the real trap. Competing factions aren't fighting to destroy the beast. They're layered to protect it. Controlled opposition, false accusers, religious dogma, they're all shields built to confuse you, to divide you, and to waste your rage. Clean out your own house, tear down your own idols, rip the mask off every liar, friend, or foe. Because if you don't, you're not fighting tyranny. You're building and you're protecting it. So that's it for episode 1. That's the blame game. Burn it all down.